Woohoo! Hey, what's up, buddy? Thanks.
Good morning. Good morning.
Picture this. I'm 6, it's my birthday, and I open this Easy Bake Oven, which in a house of 5 kids and 30 grand a year, we know this is a total grandma level present. It's beautiful, it's pink, it's got a nice light bulb, and my sister Kate, who's 8 at the time, she comes up and she's really watching the process and she's digging into how everything works. And 45 minutes later, I'm eating my brownie, and she walks up to me and she looks me in my 6-year-old eyes and she says, I can produce better results faster. She then proceeds to source all of the candles and boxes and tinfoil and anything she can find to create her own Easy Bake Oven. 20 minutes later, she's eating her brownie. I'm crying, saying, I don't like brownies anyway. Since Kate was really little, she had this idea of the world that if she wanted something, she could create it. Which is why I, the little sister, I got to grow up as a human guinea pig. At literally one point, Kate threw me on a trampoline, tied lines and sheets to me on a very windy day, and turned me into a mini paraglider. I think the worst was when I woke up from a concussion, Kate leaning over me, looking down, saying out loud, is she dead?
I promise our talk is not all about the ways to torture your younger siblings, but what these stories really show is that we were lucky. Not just lucky to still be alive. We were lucky to grow up in a home where we could take risks, we could make bold, ambitious declarations, build new things, and embrace whatever messy results that followed. Yes, there were some bumps and bruises along the way, and some concussions, and maybe some knocked out front teeth, but we were so lucky that no matter what our crazy ideas, we had a safe place to explore them. When we were little, our ideas were valuable until proven otherwise. This is a far cry from the workforce and the world that we all find ourselves in today. It seems like every day at work, you are more likely to be underestimated and undervalued than to have your ideas and your goals taken seriously. This can have a huge impact on how you see yourself and your ambition. But the good news is, the opposite is also true. When people are assumed to be valuable, they often rise to the occasion. We see so many examples of this in the research and in life. My favorite example, especially because this is one of our grandmothers that was a Rosie the Riveter. We actually have both grandmothers that were Rosie the Riveters. Women before the war were told that they should stay home or take a handful of women's jobs. And yet during the war, women were told they were capable of helping the United States win the war. They went from 1% of the aircraft industry to 65% of that workforce in just a few short years. They told themselves that we can do it, and they did. Being given the space to take risks and knowing what you're capable of can change your life.
And we understand that this sense of possibility, it might be foreign to a lot of you, particularly if you've joined a workforce that has made it their personal mission to beat the optimism out of you. Or, as one of my former bosses used to jokingly say, the beatings will continue until morale improves. But honestly, what frustrates us so much is that we live in this time where there has never been more potential. We have all of this technology and this sense of connectedness, and yet there has never been a time where there is more portals for people to shoot you down or make you feel invaluable.
And it is not just that people say mean things, right? We all have thick skin, you have thick skin. What's really heartbreaking is that people are actually underestimating each other. That means that they think you are lower in value or influence or ability than you actually are, right? We all know what this feels like. You could be the youngest guy at a company where you are the new kid until you have been there for 10 years. Or you might be the only woman in the room at all, like my friend who said, if I lean any further in, I will fall over. and she was still not getting that promotion. Or maybe you just don't look like any of the leadership in your organization.
We feel this on a really personal level. I don't know if you've noticed, but Kate and I, we are both women. And if that's not enough, we have worked in very male-dominated spaces. So it's something that we've felt almost on a daily basis.
And the funniest part about what she just said is that it still catches me off guard. Like, I was jet-setting around for work the other day. I rocked all my meetings. I came home at 2 in the morning on a red eye, feeling exhausted and feeling so good about my life and my abilities. And the next morning, I go into the dry cleaner. I hand this woman my suits, and she looks at me and she says, "Does he like his shirt starched?" And I went from feeling like I was on top of the world to feeling like my own dry cleaner does not take me seriously because of how I look. And I get it. I might not look like the typical emergency manager, and she might not look like the typical ship captain, and you might not look like the typical CEO. So guess what? You should all probably just start expecting to be underestimated. And I'm not saying that's right. It's actually really unfair and it's awful. But as long as you believe that being underestimated doesn't change your real value or influence or ability, which also means that being underestimated isn't the whole problem. It is not the whole problem. The problem is what you let it do to you. And in a time when everyone is underestimating everyone else, I know that owning your value can feel like a rebellious act. But owning your value can also put you so far ahead of the curve. Because when you're different, you have a spotlight. And you can let that spotlight shine on you and it can make you feel really small, or you can walk into that spotlight and use it to have your ideas heard. This isn't easy. This actually takes a lot of practice and determination and grit, but you can do it. Because ambition and goals, they come with risk. And while you may not have grown up in an environment that embraces either of those things, we still want you to be successful right now. And so, we have compiled 3 messages from our mother if you want to succeed when you're underestimated.
Message number 1, you, yes you, can do anything that you set your mind to. And it can be something big, or it can be something that's really tough, or God forbid, we set our minds to doing something that we actually like to do. If I can literally start in a teeny tiny town in the Midwest, learn how to captain a boat, a 100-foot boat across an ocean, fix a diesel engine, and then end up running a crew of sailors in Egypt, I think you guys can also do anything that you want. But we've got to set our minds to it. When we started talking about this topic of being underestimated at work, the stories literally poured in. And one message became very clear. The mindset of those who were underestimated and succeeded was very different than the mindset of those who were underestimated and felt stuck. Our friend put it simply, I'm young, I'm short, I'm Indian, and I'm a woman. She said, you don't think every single time I walk into a room full of clients, they don't look around like, who is this girl telling us what to do? And she's crushing it in the tech industry, by the way. And what was interesting about how she handled the problem was it was quite simple. She actually externalized the issue, saying, their opinion of my ability is actually based on 0 facts. No ability whatsoever. They know nothing about me. And she would put that garbage intentionally to the side, and she would focus on getting the job done because she knew that she could. People that are succeeding when they're underestimated are believing in themselves and focusing on what they want, not what they don't want. You have to focus on what you want versus what makes you feel comfortable. Are you focusing on the jerk in the corner of your office that's making you feel small and insignificant? Or are you focusing and finding that great leader that's in front of you that you can learn everything from? Are we focusing on how we're going to get shot down when we walk in to negotiate our salary? Or are we focusing on how great it is finally going to feel to find a company that appreciates our value? Because we are valuable. You've got to set your mind as a first step on what you want and get rid of all that other junk and focus on what you want as a first step. And that brings us to point number 2.
Message number 2, I'm doing it anyway. When we were little, my mom had 5 kids, and my dad had 5 kids, and we're all around the kitchen table, and my mom is teaching me how to write my ABCs. So we're practicing our letters, and my sister over here, who is 2 at the time, she keeps coming up and interrupting us, and my mom is like nicely dismissing her, and my sister, guess what? She doesn't like to be dismissed very much, and so Amanda actually goes over to the counter, grabs a pot, comes back over, throws it on the floor, stomps her foot at my mother, and says, "I want to make an A." My mom just looks at the rest of us and says, "It is time to teach the baby how to write." And the lesson of this story is that you have to tell the world what you are ready for. And you're going to be told no, and you're going to be told not now, and you have to figure out a way to do it anyway. Since throwing a pot is probably not the right approach in a lot of situations, find a different approach. Learn a better one. Surround yourself with information and knowledge and wisdom and experience. The wisdom that surrounds you is absolutely everything. When you don't know how to make an A, find someone who does. Learn what you can from them and figure out how to just keep moving.
And we're not saying that earning your stripes is ever going away, and I think we can probably all agree we don't want it to, because putting in the work and the time is absolutely necessary, and what's equally as necessary is believing when you do, you deserve to have a seat at the table.
Because the thing is, once you've owned and earned your stripes, you are allowed to use them. I think we women as a group are the worst at this. I think we're pretty terrible at it, actually. Guess what year women started earning more master's degrees than men? Guesses? Anybody? 1987. 30 years ago, women started earning more master's degrees than men. And women continue to earn more master's and bachelor's and doctor's degrees every year. And yet, we still meet a woman every week that does not feel as qualified as the man sitting next to her. You are more than likely every bit as qualified as the man sitting next to you. That is why you're sitting next to each other. And if more women can earn these degrees, why do we still feel like it is a stretch to not have the same number of women holding Senate seats and running Fortune 500 companies? We all need to tell the world what we're ready for.
And that brings us to our third and final and potentially most important thing our mother used to say to us: it is a good thing that you're tough. When I was little and I'd fall down and I'd scrape my knee, instead of my mom picking me up and saying, "Oh, honey, are you okay?" she used to pick me up and say, "Oh, honey, it is a good thing you're tough." Failure and criticism are inevitable. Unfortunately, those things are never going to go away. And that is when we need to tell ourselves it is a good thing we're tough. And we also need to foster this self of confidence inside of us, especially when we're being underestimated and told we can't. And psychologists tell us in order to have a base to build our self-confidence, we have to believe one simple thing: your actions influence your results. That's it. Your actions influence your results. In other words, and this is really exciting, it means that you are in charge of designing your life as you move forward through it. It's probably the most exciting thing that we can think of. And you know what? Sometimes this is not easy, because it means you have to take massive action in a different direction to get the results that you want. When I was sailing through the Pacific, I ended up in a hurricane. And I remember thinking a couple things. Number one, I'm really scared. It was pretty messy for me. And number two, I thought, if I ever get home again, I'm never going to sail again. This is not good for me. So when I arrived limping back to shore, I did not make it to my destination. I felt this spotlight more than ever because the people that were around me that didn't think I could do it, that did not think I was capable of making it, they were not thinking I was appropriate age to run that type of program, they were actually right because I did not make it. I failed. And that's when I remember my mom telling me, she's here, it's a good thing you're tough. And so I packed my bags, and 2 days later, I left for the ocean. And when I made my destination the second time, there was something really magical about that. You all will have your own worst storm, and you will be criticized, and you will fail. And that is when you need to tell yourself, it's a good thing I'm tough, and take a step forward again, because that is where you will experience true growth.
Yes, it would have been easier for Amanda to have probably just not gotten back on the boat. And it would have been easier for our mother to have underestimated my abilities to build an easy bake oven. And it would have been easier for our grandmothers to have stayed home rather than building machine guns and airplanes during the war. But can you imagine what the world would be like if everyone's mother and sister and coworker and supervisor told them that they could do anything they set their minds to? As we work towards that future, you have to remember, you can do anything you set your mind to, but you have to focus on what you want, and you have to tell the world what you're ready for. You're still going to be underestimated. I'm sorry, you're still going to be underestimated, but you can walk into the room with this attitude that they will only underestimate me once. Surround yourself with people you can learn from. And when you get knocked down, remember, it is a good thing you're tough.
You can say aw. Our niece, Lydia, we know she is going to be a world changer. And we are excited about the possibility that she will not be underestimated for being a woman that walks into a boardroom or in to perform surgery like her doctor dad. We cannot wait until the men and the women in her generation no longer undervalue each other, but rather work together to create a bigger and brighter future. Thank you.
Thank you.